Welcome back, friends, to the best show on earth. The prophet of fiction is back in the saddle, going solo today, bringing you the most disturbing, unbelievable show on earth. Who wants to know the world they inhabit? Well, this is not a tour for the faint of heart. It's more like joining Virgil on his tour of hell and what was that other place between heaven and hell? We'll just be doing hell today. It's more fun. Today we're visiting a place called Oaxaca, Juarez, or the city of Oaxaca, the capital of the state of Oaxaca in southern Mexico. I've been here a little while, gotten to know some things, had a second look at a few things. So it has quite an extensive so-called colonial city. Lots of colonial architecture. Lovely stuff. There's enough colonial buildings here to provide dwellings for perhaps 50,000 people. But what kind of people lived in these buildings? Not people like you and I. No, I think the Tartarians may have figured that out. These buildings were not originally banks and shops and just shuttered places. A little neglected. There's a Catholic church, one of many in the colonial downtown. We don't honestly believe the people who lived in this luxury actually went to church, do we? There's a nice square. I believe this is the Zocalo, downtown square, part of it. Part of it with vendors in their almost tents, really. And with the beautiful, spacious, high ceilings, apartments behind them, all around this square. I think this is the main street, Independencia. Oh, we now have a hotel here, and I don't know what this one is. Bank, perhaps. This one's been boarded over. I suppose there were, barred over. I suppose there were steps coming down here once upon a time. There are doors there. Yes, things have been altered. Well, but before we get to the churches, which I do intend to focus on because, well, we have a city here full of apartments, residences, possibly dining halls. I didn't feature any here, but the question arises, where did these people cook their food or process it? We've got an extensive population, possibly 50,000 who once lived here. Not people like you and I, no, the aristocracy, probably Spanish, but aristocracy nevertheless, that's the most important definer. We can call them Spanish, but they are not like us. And they're not here anymore, at least not visibly. So I propose, as I've done in other videos, that churches were once upon a time the kitchens and actually also the slaughterhouses of these very strange people. Not like you and I, and not long ago, a century ago perhaps, perhaps 2 centuries, they abandoned their inner cities, or sorry, their colonial cities, left them to us, and we've turned them into, well, kind of capitalist markets where we buy and sell and watch movies. We've changed their kitchens into churches. I can imagine them laughing because, well, they were not only kitchens for regular meat, they were kitchens for cannibals. Let's have a close look. See if we can find any evidence that these places are not Christian places. There is precious little evidence that they are Christians, really, are Christian places. Plenty of statues on the face of this church. I believe it's the Church of Our New Lady or something of that sort, on Independencia in Oaxaca. We do see a cross here. Well, not much else. The cross, however, as we'll see better in another picture, has a skull beneath it. No one there. That doesn't look like Jesus. The cross could be could have had another purpose. Some strange sculptures. We'll have a better look in a moment. Here's a close-up. Not very, what's the word? Inspirational for Christians, I must say. The skull looks rather unhappy. Maybe this is supposed to be the mother of Jesus. And beside her, a small image, a small copy or image of a village. Doesn't look like Bethlehem much. Doesn't look like Golgotha, the site of Christ's supposed crucifixion. What's going on here? On the same facade, a woman carrying a bouquet, but this is not an ordinary bouquet. This bouquet has a child in it. Tiny little child can actually stand. That's not the size of a normal child. That's a bit too small. Something I'll discuss again later. And what is she holding here? Some strange instrument. Not a scythe, but I'm not sure what that is. Another interesting statue, an angel. Indeed, an angel, but carrying a ribbon of some sort. A man carrying a goblet, suppose full of the blood of someone named Jesus or someone else. Doesn't look like any saint I know. And I know the experts try to put the names of saints on some of these statues, but many times it's somewhat arbitrary. And this is over the main door entrance, the Sacred Heart of Jesus, with these three lines radiating from the center, or the top anyway. And supposedly that's because it's holy, but as I will argue, it's because it's been cooked. It's radiating heat. And I suppose the heart was one of the best parts for the cannibals. I like to call them the world cannibal cult. Here's a giant altarpiece, in Spanish, reredo. We've got lines radiating from Jesus' feet. And in this kind of glass cage, Masonic two pillars and arch, is, I suppose, the Virgin Mary with her crazy kind of Mexican triangular dress. A bit of a close-up. What were they thinking? What are these leaf-like things doing there? It's like he's part of a clock. This is the top of the dome, the inside, obviously. Well, and who is that man? Always these hand gestures. I mean, that's not a natural position for your hand. Reminiscent of Masonic hand signals, signs. And maybe more importantly, what's with all the baby heads? And maybe that's not even a baby, just people's heads, decapitated heads, disembodied heads. Well, it's quite common in Mexican churches. I wonder why. Doesn't seem very Christian, but, well, of course it isn't. We are talking about the world cannibal cult, and I suppose decapitation was part of the food preparation ritual. Indeed, and there's the sunburst with the dove in the center, if that's a dove. Talk about sunbursts, usually in the tops of domes and in many other places, like here above this glass box containing an image of the Virgin Mary. Again, the giant sunburst. You will also find it in St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. These people were crazy about sunshine, and we'll touch on that a bit later. More sunshine. None of this is original, by the way. The kitchens don't need all this decor. This was added for us so that we could believe that these are sacred places. Sunbursts, sunbursts. People floating around on clouds. There's the sacred wafer, the symbolic body of Christ, and I suppose this is the goblet with its symbolic blood as wine. The wine symbolizing his blood. We got little children again, naked cherubs. Yeah, cherubs is a nice word for babies. Unclothed, always unclothed. Rarely even wrapped. There's two people wearing the papal mitre. That is very odd. Why two? Maybe there's something we don't know about popes. Sunburst again here with the supposed Well, the Jesuit logo, it's supposed to be an I or JHS with a cross often perched on the crossbar of the H. I like to say this actually spells the word shit. Maybe that was the joke. Yeah, these people are very funny. And English is their primary joke language. This bizarre painting. That's a saint. Doesn't look very happy. Or is this a sacrificial king I've spoken about before? Sacrificial kings, usually men. Maybe that's a man. Here we go, statue or relief carving with the radiant sun again, and the man standing on, sorry, two people's heads. Oh, how can people not be disturbed by decor, iconography of this sort? We're back to the facade of the same cathedral. I don't know. I think this is meant to be Saint, or supposed to be, claimed to be Saint Paul. Reading a book and holding a sword. We'll find swords. I find swords quite often in or on churches and cathedrals and basilicas. Good men holding swords on the facades of churches. Really? Well, I know swords are mentioned more than once in the Gospels, but do you think maybe a sword was necessary for the beheading process? Maybe. What's the book for? I suspect it's not the Bible. They didn't bother to write that word on it. I guess these people were literate before literacy became, let's say, public. Perhaps they had their own ritual texts to recite during their cannibal rituals. I think it was highly ritualized. Of course, it has to be. They don't want to feel like savages. This is the interior of said church. I had to steal this picture. Nice Masonic black and white checkerboard floor pattern. And here we see some evidence that there has been quite extensive modification and adding, embellishing perhaps, of these holy places. It says this woodwork painted with gold paint. There's St. Paul again. I think this is original railing. It's metalwork. And the pews, as we call them, the benches, are obviously added. They're a different sort of wood. They don't fit the floor pattern, the tile pattern. They are mobile. Maybe they've been screwed into the floor, but they were not original. Aristocrats, by the way, would surely not be Christians. They rule the world. They don't need anyone to forgive their sins. They don't pray to anyone. More likely, their slaves and prisoners prayed to them. And this altar, who knows, maybe original? Of course, they had to sacrifice their victim somewhere. Now, I don't think they only ate humans. I hope no one got that impression from me. Oaxaca can be translated as ox here. OAX loosely resembles ox. There is an ah sound there, so we don't normally spell ox with an A, but I think it's kind of suitable. And aca is Spanish for here, so ox here. I think oxen were common food for these carnivores. I just heard recently that Casa Loma in Toronto, lovely old building with some 198 rooms, had a oven that could fit an ox. Don't think that was a accident. They were not baking giant loaves of bread. But I really wanted this picture because for me it's important to remind or to show that there is a heat source needed for cooking, and the heat source was sunshine amplified by large magnifying lens strung from the ceilings of these places. They, of course, no longer here. They wouldn't want that evidence of their crimes, obvious evidence remaining. They're quite happy to leave other things, but not the cooking lens, and not the Antiquitech, about which I don't usually talk, but it is relevant to this what shall I call it, narrative or interpretation of history I am providing. Here's the back of the church we've been looking at. Another sun, well, we saw that sunburst, and we can see Mary, this image of Mary a little better. You know, is that a giant body halo, or is that meant to show that she was also cooked and she's radiating heat? These are the jokes they play. Another image of evidence that these churches have been modified. Sorry, these kitchens have been modified into churches. There's a little, I don't know, room here, chapel. Chapel is a nice word, it's a pun, a crypto pun on the word chop, the chop-el, the chopping place. You do have to chop your meat somewhere. And this, not this church, but another one has many, many chapels. Lovely angel with a sunburst over his head, holding a chandelier that's really not useful in these places. They do have large windows. These chandeliers provide almost no light. I believe this is a little crypto allusion to the people who once held, the kitchen helpers who once controlled the cooking lens, directing that light, not holding very weak candles, now electric bulbs. We're back to the outside facade. A monk, Dominican, Franciscan, who knows, carrying a child, very small child, dressed in a robe this time. Standing on what? A book? How strange. I think this is not a monk, of course. This is a kitchen help. And he's presenting today's meal. Maybe the child is looking appealingly into his eyes. Oh, nice. Not sure that's a Hispanic face. Looks rather Northern European. This is and the other side of the church. I think, if I'm guessing correctly, the west-facing side. Yes, we got this funny character on the top, kind of naked man welcoming people, visitors, not visitors, or I think this is original, so who knows what the cannibals were thinking. Here, clearly an image of a well-dressed aristocrat, but wearing a crown. I don't think they went around wearing crowns, as I explained in one of my electric Bible works. The crown was actually a electroconductive cap used during the execution / electrocution of adult victims. Another figure I could not identify as any particular saint. Maybe someone else can. Holding a child's hand. Children everywhere in these places. I don't see any particularly Christian iconography here. Got this funny, except for this, I suppose, Mesoamerican, Mexican, Catholic virgin with their funny pyramid-like dress and a crown again. Maybe this is not original. The stone appears to be of different color. Something else may have been there in the past, and maybe this was a triangle in the past. Who knows what they attempted to hide. Let's not miss these funny vases here. I don't think this is Antiquitech. I think this is just them decorating their kitchens with kitchenware, stone kitchenware. This is a pot, cooking pot, decorative one, ornamental cooking pot. Here's the gate to this church. We have the, not sure what that was. Maybe that was the Jesuit logo again. What do we have up here? A naked man, not Jesus. Welcome to your restaurant. No, sorry, just kitchen. They don't actually, I don't believe they ate these places. Food was served elsewhere. This is a building attached to the church, excuse me, kitchen. Maybe they think it's a convent. I think that's the official identification. May have been used as a convent once upon a time, but I don't think that was its original purpose. You don't need a place that can hold probably hundreds of people. This is quite an extensive complex. Hundreds of nuns next to a church. How many nuns do you need in a church? And this is too luxurious. Please don't tell me that they built such structures for nuns taking oaths of poverty. Oh, back to the church. The sun is casting its light precisely in the cooking area, beaming down from the windows above. As we saw earlier, going in and out. Sorry about that. This is the convent, maybe seminary, so-called. Tell me if that looks like a shield belonging to a seminary. No, seminaries and monk orders of monks that I don't believe had any shields. Heraldry. This has an eagle's wings, maybe two eagle heads. Pretty hard, quite hard to tell. Probably original. This is very near the cathedral, just a few yards away. This is now a bathroom. The height measures about 5 feet. We'll find a few more short doors. Contrary to what some Tartarian researchers claim, there were no giants here. Instead, there were very short people. The short people were not the aristocracy. The short people were people who were either bred or raised to be short and underground. We've seen this one. This one, that's better resolution. One eagle, well, 2 wings, 2 heads. Oh, is that the Holy Roman Empire? So they say. Why 2 heads? Yes, the right and the left. They play both sides of the coin. Close up of the child we saw in the bouquet earlier. A little deformed, as I say. They raised or bred short people. A better image. That does now look like a scythe to me. Isn't that nice? A lady carrying or holding a scythe and a baby in the other hand. I don't know how you can make a pious interpretation of this kind of iconography, but I'm sure some people do. This is nice too. Perhaps woman wearing a handkerchief with the image of a head, maybe with shoulders attached, maybe with blood pouring out of its mouth, eyes closed. Oh, it's an angel. Oh, lovely angels. Yeah, oh, well, we can make all the stories we want about saints. I think there's some Mexican saint who got the image of a virgin on his cloak. One of the great miracles, allegedly. This may be another church. It hardly matters. Got the papal mitre here, floating in midair. This, I don't know, gnome-like man carrying maybe a key to the underworld, to the prison world beneath these cities. And this is a kind of papal staff with triple crossbar. I think the Pope still carries one. And the number 3, well, we got 2 3s here. I guess we can make a 33 out of that. Very odd stuff, to say the least. This is a not a church. This is a 2-story. Now it's a hotel, not far from the site of the church. This is the Jesuit logo, I suppose. 2 upright bars with like a triangle cross, 2 triangles crossing up and down. Quite common in Oaxaca. But this is an R and an I. This is Inri. I don't know. And what is this? I have no clue. And something's been erased here. In fact, the original stone is greenish. It's local. Cantera, I believe it's called. And this light brown stone for the letter work appears to have been added later. There's the man with the floating, what's it called? Mitre, and the staff with the 3 crossbars. This is quite another church. The front door has a stone that's been seriously worn. Like, what were people doing there? I don't think that's an original stepping stone. It's not the same color as the base of this pillar. And I don't think people walking could create that much wear and tear, erosion. Could this have been the chopping block? Now they ask us to step on it. Reminds me of the threshold theme in the Bible. Thresholds were so important and dangerous. Yeah, someone lost their head. Was it the god Dagon who lost his head on the threshold of his own temple? Yeah, a sword used for a century, chopping heads and other parts could cause so much wear and tear, maybe. There's this, what is now a hotel. Where we get to spend our money. I don't believe the aristocracy ever used money before they invented it for us. Make us fight for our survival, economic survival. Here's more non-Christian imagery combined with a cross. Well, what could a cross be if it's not Christian? Could it be the place where sacrificial humans were hung for the minimum 3 days until rigor mortis stops and the meat is tenderized naturally by bacteria, as hunters do with deer and other game? I think that's the original purpose of a cross. And now Christians worship crosses. Maybe that's a crown? No idea. We got 2 shields here with stars, 8-pointed stars. Your guess is as good as mine. Maybe I'll get a close-up of that frieze. Frieze is not a nice English word. I hope I have it somewhere. This must be inside the chapel of another church. There's that frieze I was hoping to see. Oh, must be one of the strangest relief sculptures. What's going on here? We got a woman, let's say it's the Virgin Mary. I don't know. She's got a crown on. Well, why is she wearing a crown? We didn't put crowns on our Virgin Marys. She wasn't the queen of anything, was she? The queen of the underworld? And, well, my gosh, she seems, these children are holding her cape, these cherubs, and beneath her cape, I guess protected like little chicks by the wings of a hen, we have these strange gnome-like men who are not normal size. I would pose that she is normal size. She's no giant. And they are stunted somehow. As you might be too if you were raised underground and not fed properly in your infancy. Yeah, they like to have us weak and small. And why are they, what are they praying about? I think they know what's going to happen. What is this utensil here too? It looks like some kind of spatula or tenderizer. Good grief. So maybe she worked in the kitchen. No, she's probably a sacrificial queen. Or they just mixed up combined their ideas. There's that funny M, they will say it's for Mary. Of course, it could also be for Masons. There's the crown. Masons. Well, the crown is not really a symbol of true rulership. It's a symbol of the puppets and the sacrificial kings of the past, puppets of today. Lovely, amazing, really, lectern here. I speculate that it's original, made of marble, as the entire floor is extending to the, I suppose, front of the church, under the altar. I once thought they'd never used books until they decided to use them against us, but I think, no, they had books already, and maybe not for entertainment purposes, but for ritual purposes. Well, what's the difference for them? Same church. We have a nice image of a high window, sun coming through, landing there where the cooking may have happened in the past. They were kind enough to place a chandelier nearly in line. I suppose if a cooking lens were hung from the same position, a little lower, and maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes later, the sun would go directly through it. But the timing's not that important. I'm sure the lens were mobile. As the sun keeps moving, someone had to move the lens. And this, by the way, also explains why churches don't have windows at eye level. Rarely. The big windows are usually quite 3-4 meters above the ground. Maybe it depends on the location, the latitude of the church, cathedral, basilica, temple, holy crypt, even sometimes a mosque like the Hagia Sophia. Yes, temples. Sorry, these windows are usually not at eye level because they were not meant for us to enjoy looking outside or inside. They had a function, a cooking function. And there needs to be space between the window and the cooking station, a space for the lens to operate. Hence, it wouldn't work if the window was at eye height. I've seen something similar to this in Querétaro, north of here. A ladder, perhaps a hammer, perhaps a whip attached to a handle, and I'm not sure what those three things are. Are they branding irons? Stamping irons? The ladder, of course, symbolizing or reminding us that there isn't a world beneath. The hammer, perhaps used or indicating that things were dug underneath. The whip, for the slaves who had to do some of the digging. Although, these underground tunnel and chamber complexes in many cities are so extensive. I don't think humans did that. Not without the aid of some technology. Don't know what exactly. And again, they look like funeral urns, but I propose that they are cooking pots. Funeral urns should be marked with someone's name, you'd think. No names here, and they're a bit too big for funeral urns. Quite too big. More evidence of alteration. This could be the front of the nave of a church. These are strange pulpits, or whatever. And someone could stand in here, and they're all over these cathedrals, and in Mexico, everyone seems to have one of these things on the right side. I suppose it's for a choir leader or someone to do special readings. Or were these used by the people controlling the cooking lens? Not sure. Original purpose. If there was original purpose, I think this is made of wood, so probably a later addition. There's a big reredo altarpiece with pillars, and not an arch, but a little dome. But I believe maybe not this exact work, but something resembling this served as the execution location, electrocution location. Well, it's actually pillars with a dome inside two pillars under an arch. We've got the man who's already dead here after the sacrifice, after his execution. He must be hung. And on this side, well, who could that be? Of course, every man with a a boy child. A boy would be Joseph, maybe. I suppose the real meaning, the true meaning, is something quite different. Well, they're not angels. Holding the crown. It's not a thorn crown. Why is it a regular crown? Jesus wore a crown of thorns. Never, ever a quote unquote real crown. Real crowns were, as I argue, caps to be worn by during the electrocution ritual. Did we see this one before? I don't think so. Very strange. Staff is not very Christian. Man, quite large. Holding a child? Or how do I can't venture to guess how old this person is. Did I miss something here? Maybe not. Oh, probably yes. There's our man holding the child again. Not Jesus. No way he resembles Jesus. It's funny. Almost pyramid-like triangles. They did use different kinds of stone. It's quite curious to try to understand why the red brownish stone here around the center, that means something. This is a little, I hesitate to call it a public square. It's tiny. These very shallow steps. Perhaps once a place where the aristocracy rested and splashed their feet in the water. They did like water. Here we are, one of the streets. I have no idea why they needed such great walls. This is around a supposed seminary and extensive garden, now filled with ornamental plants rather than edible plants. And I suppose the street is new, or relatively newer. I don't think they used sidewalks. I suppose they rarely walked. Airships, perhaps, and horse and buggy, perhaps. Yeah, this is a view of the garden. You can have tours. I've had one myself. Nothing to eat in that garden, so not very interesting to me. Being a raw vegan. There's just the gate. It's a double C. What does that mean? Catholic Church, or is it the CC 33 of the Masons? Above the gate, we have a curious image. Curious, surely, for a garden and seminary. Two swords crossed. No, they're not swords. They're, look, again, what those are, two scythes. Giant scythes. But the handles are sword-like. Like, oh no, this is just the recessed area. I misinterpreted. So they are just crossed swords. I saw the cross swords today on the shoulders of Iranian generals. One set of cross swords on each shoulder, representing the double cross. Mm-hmm. We are being double crossed. As the good man at illusion warfare often points out. Yes, that's clear now, just the recessed area. The garden, ornamental. A young child doesn't seem too happy. Wonder why not. Doesn't seem too well dressed either. No, they wouldn't give children nice clothes before they are eaten. Children who are not of the aristocracy. Yeah, same. They're not the most beautiful churches on the outside, nothing compared to what you may find in Europe, but I suspect the technology and techniques evolved in Europe and were disseminated outwards. Western Europe, of course. Yeah, they're doing some work here. This is, who knows what this was? You got the high windows again. Was more cooking going on there? Another spot, another woman holding a child. Again, doesn't look very happy. Same. All right, we got this. Looks like Mr. here, but no, it's something else. It's not letters I can recognize, except for the R. They love to confuse us, and probably these stones were added later. Again, we have the light brown set inside the green stone work. What do we have here? Another, I suppose, could be Jesus. A Bible, oh, sorry, a crucifix on a book, a skull, an angel bringing a wreath down from heaven. It's not the crown of thorns, something else. A rather muscular looking child here. Were they feeding a bovine growth hormone to us? Another, maybe that's an angel. Not being very helpful. This man, I venture, doesn't look very happy either. No, you will not see smiles on any of your temples, mosques, synagogues, or churches. Well, what do we have here? Okay, this one is competing for the most disturbing image of my series, Oaxaca series. So, man or woman, maybe, holding two headless, naked children, babies. I challenge Christians to make something Christian out of that. What is this person holding? Some instrument, crosses, perhaps? Small crosses for babies? Yeah. The original. what do they call this? The triangle on top of the pillars appears to have been broken, partly. Maybe it never continued, and this is original. I suspect it is. That's what we just looked at. Another cathedral with these, yeah, doors for giants. That's funny. They're also very wide enough to bring oxen through. I think that might be yeah, it was a either a homeless man or a romantic couple I noticed in the city. A nice a window that's no longer a window. And just to make sure the sun didn't come through, it's now filled in with some black stone or metal work and a cross radiating. Is this the temple of Santo Domingo, maybe? It's funny, towers, with their little domes on top and a lantern on top and a little cross on top, just so we think it's actually a church, Christian place. But as we'll see, the facade is not very Christian. Yeah. We got two monk and a nobleman holding up a miniature house. That's a common theme too. Men holding tiny miniature homes, sometimes in miniature neighborhoods. Not sure what to make of that. Maybe they want to tell us that they are the masons, the builders. A nice shield without Christian iconography. Again, two people holding small crosses. Yeah, almost looks like the one we just looked at. It is the one we just looked at. Caught myself walking in circles. I don't think these bells are original. Sometimes they're strung up with wire or rope. They may have been the airports for the airships. There's a better image, yeah, holding up a little house. It's almost like holding up the globe, as we see in some statues of kings. Baptismal font? Or was this a bowl or a cooking pot? It's a small size with a wooden lid. Well, that wouldn't work for solar cooking. Not with large cooking lens. It's another man holding a house. The high windows, of course. This church is very special. It has windows facing south and no windows on the north wall. Well, isn't that convenient? Well, because they don't really need north-facing windows. You can't get direct sunshine through a north-facing window. So, although most churches have windows on all sides and are very symmetrical, these people, in this case, the builders were very practical. Yeah, just skip the north side windows. You don't need them there. Anything special about the floor? Maybe not. All right. This is fairly low window, but it's high. I mean, it's large. And we've got the sun shining down right near the altar, the sacrificial altar. No, the cooking altar, or, well, maybe the chopping altar. Who knows what they had here in the past? Again, sunshine beaming down right where they want it, or wanted it. I think I was there around noon. Here's a larger baptismal font, or shall we say, cooking pot. This ugly lid is probably not original. I've seen in Europe stone baptismal fonts with stone lids, probably original. Yeah, there's the sunshine again. Okay, enough of that. Here we are. Well, if people eat, they must also excrete. And where are the toilets in these colonial slash Tartarian cities? Nowhere to be found. No outdoor outhouses. No compost toilets. But they had fountains everywhere. Maybe those were wash stations. Maybe they had covers in the past. I don't know how shy they are or were. Maybe they just had bedpans and slaves, slave class passed to take care of that. There's a child angel, some sort of spear, shield. Nothing Christian here. Double cross. Maybe that's a serpent standing on a serpent. Like this is a little Saint George killing the serpent or the dragon, or another symbol for us, perhaps. Serpents being on the ground and beneath them, or in the ground. This was once, I suppose, a fountain or tub. Now it's a planter, a raised bed. Many around in old Oaxaca. Some nice gargoyles. Oh yes, those aristocrats were very Christian, obviously. They love gargoyles. Some kind of demonic fish. Sun burst over a, well, what do the Christians call this? The chalice. Well, it's a cup for blood. I think blood was one of the more valued substances. Human blood. Oh, and of course, let's not miss the baby heads or human heads. Oh, yes, one to the big four around here and one below, maybe two more there. Can't get enough of decapitated heads. Another radiating woman and some kind of figure beneath her, climbing out of the underworld. Again, it looks like something has been altered here. This gray stone, and, well, who knows? A cross with an extra horizontal bar on it. So it's double crossed. These very high windows. Yeah. Another kitchen. For 50,000 people, that was the maximum population of the colonial city. You might expect a few kitchens, at least 100. Jeez, I don't know. There's an existing fountain. Still, well, no one dares to wash themselves there now. This is a gazebo in the center of the square, so-called Zocalo. And there's like a 3-foot high door. This is where the circus freaks came through, emerged from, before doing performances for the aristocracy assembled around them. You know, this whole square here around this gazebo it's surrounded by residential quarters. There's the gazebo, the little door. I think, not sure what they use it for now. Might be not the original gazebo. Maybe it was just a stage, or for some sort of entertainment. Disturbing, no doubt. This is, believe it or not, this is inside a cathedral. And this is a door. And again, it's no more than maybe 3.5 feet high. No, yeah, maybe 4, but it's short. This is my eye level. It's a step and more space. Oh boy, I think we've seen her before. Or a copy, yeah, here, she's behind a net. And again, we have this strange instrument behind her. Doesn't look like a scythe this time. And she's not holding a bouquet, I suppose, but there's a child perched on something here. Naked, of course. They didn't swaddle their children, their babies, no. And the proportion seems like a small child, not a baby. The head's too small, but the size is, the body is too small to be a child. Sunshine. I love sunshine, but I don't want to be cooked with sunshine. Yeah, maybe these very high windows, what are they called? Forgot the special word for them, around the bottom of a dome, probably for ventilation, as they were cooking in here. This is the altarpiece. Original art altarpiece here is made of like black marble, and they've added some cheaper stuff. The black marble does not feature anything very Christian besides people with wings, angels, which could have had different meaning for the aristocracy. They did fly around, after all, in their airships. So maybe they fancied themselves angels, Anglos. By the way, church, the word church in Spanish is iglesias, very close to the word for English. The English are central. Anyway, we'll see the back of this, not sure what to call it, decoration. It's not really an altar, not meant to be an altarpiece. Has a door. There you go. And this door opens down into a stairwell underground. Of course, they must have their underground farms and prisons. And in this case, they could march the victim, maybe dressed as a king, into the upper world, into heaven, as he would imagine, after spending a lifetime down in the darkness, only to learn at the last, when it's too late, that he will be sacrificed. I think that's the altarpiece there with, the original statue, black, with the gaudy Christian crucifix added later. A lovely throne, chair, electrocution chair, probably not, but they did. I'm sure they used them. That's funny. Curious images here. She welcoming something. The sunshine. Cooking time. This is one of the many chapels in this church on Independencia, close to the Zocalo. I think it has about 18, wild guess, or 20 chapels. They are now behind iron bars, but I neglected to take a good picture of these, where they're attached to the stone walls. It's clear that these are later additions. They did not need iron gates barring people from entering these so-called chapels that used to be chopping places, food preparation places. The art is not worth protecting, by the way. The art in the main nave is probably much more valuable. Got decapitated head, bodiless head with wings. Not nice. Yeah, a man, this time a man holding a child, but not very childlike. That creature looks a bit like a deformed adult. Well, they had to deform us and stunt us to not only control us, but make it seem justified to treat us as another species, as food. Here are more deformed, stunted men. That's not a dove. I'm not sure what kind of creature that is here. More heads. Chop. No one seems very happy. Not sure what they're doing here. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 men. If we add these 4, well, this one is of uncertain gender, I suppose. Anyway, we're getting close to 13. 13 disciples and Jesus. No, they like the number 13. It's their good luck number. Well, there's really almost too much. This is just one. 3 or 4, maybe 5 churches I photographed. This is the Zocalo. Quite nice to visit, if you can ignore the history. Immaculate Virgin, ornamental. Carmelo, Gloria de Carmelo. What's in this frieze? Nothing Christian. A man reclining on something. Yeah. Templo de Carmen de Abajo. This means Well, Carmen is a woman's name, of course. Abajo means from below, the abajo, from below. Below what? Below the colonial urban world. So suburban, the original meaning, was right under the city. Carmen, oh yeah, they left to leave us hints of what was happening, what they were doing. So it's a strange. The resurfaced church, I don't know what they did to it, or shall I say kitchen or airport, whatever. This is now a museum. I suppose it was someone's private residence, someone important. Oversized doors. Nothing to see up here. Nothing worth commenting on. What's this? Ornaments. This is the church of Carmen de Abajo. A crucifix right on top of the Sacred Heart. I dare not venture what that means. That's just odd. And who do we have here? That's another adult carrying a child? No, the head's too small. A deformed human. Human, the word human related to the Latin word for humus, the soil beneath their feet. Yeah, convent, so-called convent, they like to believe. Yeah, I think this was the first, actually, the convent I looked at initially on the roof, or not sure what the called architectural feature this is, but something has been removed all around. There's, I don't know, more than a dozen of these, all broken. There were probably gargoyles at the ends of these drains. And this was also right beside the first cathedral we examined. There's a large sitting area here and square. Steps going up here and seating area here. What kind of entertainment did nuns expect? And Christians? No, this is more like what this is more a continuation of the amphitheaters of perhaps a slightly earlier time. Of course, they needed some entertainment. And this is that square outside that first cathedral. This is more of the so-called convent. Yeah, quite luxurious. And nearly at the end, this is the last slide. As Fomenko has pointed out, the first digit in these dates is not a digit. This is not a number. In fact, the numbers 895 are centered in this oval, and this extra piece, probably original, has been left has been put to the side. It's not a 1. So I suspect these people, when this was built, 895, that was near the end of the 9th century of their cult. They've been around for over 10 centuries now, I guess. Not a short time, and they are not few. They are not a family of 12. They are not a committee of 300. They are millions now among us or somewhere else on a secret island. anyone interested in reading and one of my books, not all are on these subjects, can contact me. Been working on them for 20 years. Many have photos now, not as many as, not all the ones from these slides. There's just too much information, too much evidence for me to pack into my books, which are already some in excess of 600 pages. That's one reason I'm not printing them. I may print parts in the future. This is how you can contact me and pay me, yeah, if you're interested in one of these books. I hope you enjoyed the show, as disturbing as it may be. Better to know and test your own inner strength. Not be afraid of anything. Do your mental exercises. Something I'll explore another day. Well, that's all for now. The Prophet of Fiction is signing off.